Thanks for being here. My name is Ham Donishman. I'm the Senior Product Manager for the Smart Systems. Today we're going to talk about Verasys, one of our newest products that we are releasing and launching today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Verasys and why this is important from the market that we're going after. So what does it make your building smarter? So if we really think about it, a lot of the terms that I'm going to throw out here, you're going to be hearing that throughout the show. You know, it is what we call a simple user interface. It is what we call, from a fault detection diagnostics, if you haven't heard of that term before, is what we're trying to do with our equipment and controls. FDD is a terminology that you could go out there and Google it yourself. It's really embedding our analytics within our equipment and controls to be able to tell you before you have a major down or major problem with the equipment, so you'd be notified and you'd be able to fix the problem immediately. And as far as what the system around Verasys can do for you is that not only we're going to have that analytics inside of our equipment, but we're going to be able to notify you through texting and emailings, and those are the simple things that people need to have to be able to operate their systems. We talked about remote monitoring. This is really down to how can you take information from your building, from your devices, from your equipment, and then be able to see that anywhere you are, anywhere in the world. One thing is important to note with Verasys is that a lot of terms you hear around the show today is everybody's looking at the cloud. We have to get up in the cloud to be able to look at the system. With Verasys, we will have the cloud option, not our first release, but we don't need to have the cloud to be able to get to the system from anywhere in the world. That is a very key difference. That's a differentiation with what we have at Verasys. As far as the maximizing pre-program, these are things that the terminologies I will be using. These are configurable systems. You know, we're going to be going out of our factories that embedded controls ready to go, and it's going to be able to get that maximize of the energy savings and reducing your risks. And then also from a Verasys system, it is really a simple system around doing simple logics within your system. So these interlocks, we call it interlocks. It's an example of that would be that we could take a simple input and then be able to do something with it. So for example, lighting, you know, we could have that input come into us. If it's dark outside, let's turn on the lights. So very simple interfaces. This is not a complex world. We're talking about simple buildings. So what is Verasys? So really Verasys, in our point of view, it's a simple user experience. We're going after light commercial offering around light commercial buildings to mid-market, and it is a plug-and-play system, and it is a truly plug-and-play system. What that means is that our controllers on our equipment are pre-programmed from the factory. They're configurable in the field, but when you power them up, they come up and they connect and they talk and they communicate and they will work. So that is really the plug-and-play. You could change in a normal world. If you change the address of a device and change it to something else, you have to do a whole lot of programming. With this particular system, you change the address, everything follows. All your objects, all your tree structures, all your trends, all your faults. That's what plug and play is about. When we look at the growth in the business, obviously electronics are getting cheaper. We're looking at controls. You know, we're looking at embedded controls within our equipment. That is a very important key takeaway here. Mobile. Everybody has their mobile devices now. So the system has to be taking advantage of your mobile devices, so be able to control your system, be able to take the information, be able to do what you need to do remotely. That is very important key. And then obviously remote monitoring. That is also a key takeaway, a key attribute of Verasys. No matter where you are in the world, you should be able to get to your system, be able to do what you need to do with your system and change the configuration. Some of the key features around Verasys, we touched on this before, and one thing you should take away again here is that we are pushing the intelligence down to the end devices and the equipment level. So we're building the foundation that our equipment and our devices are smart. The key around smart equipment, smart devices. So the intelligence around fault detection diagnostics, all of that is being embedded at our controller level. So, and then the other key takeaway with Verasys is that we make sure that if this is for a contractor, when we're talking about a mechanical contractor, that no tools are required. If you think about a typical controls contractor, they have to take out their laptop, they have to do a whole lot of programming in the field to be able to get a simple controller online with a piece of equipment. What we're saying here, you have no tools. All you need is your phone, and the system will interact with your phone, and then you'll be able to change the configuration. So very important attribute with Verasys. We talked about embedded fault detection diagnostics. We talked about remote connectivity. Again, these are the key attributes of the system. Where do we go with Verasys? So light commercial, mid-market. So if you look at the vertical markets that I have on here on the screen, these are really the key areas that Verasys is going to be playing well. So you really look at, I don't have the square footage on here, but if you look at anywhere from a 5,000 square foot to, let's say, about 50 to 70,000 square foot, that's really where Verasys is playing. So small buildings, rooftops, package equipment, VAV systems, those are the type of buildings you want to go after, and that's where the mechanical contractor or a contractor play comes in. So Verasys, it becomes a key attribute, or at least a key system, that a mechanical contractor to go out and have that offering, not only from an equipment perspective, but from a controls perspective. So some of the applications and support that we do with Verasys, as it states on the screen here, it is a bundle offering. So the key takeaway here also is that you will have a best opportunity to win in this market when you bundle equipment and controls together. So that is one of the key attributes of Verasys. When our equipment come out of factory, they are pre-programmed, they're Verasys ready, they're part of our smart equipment offering. So as far as the bundle offering, we do single zone type of rooftops. These could be splits, these could be heat pumps, they could be constant volume, or we could do VAV system up to 32 boxes, or a changeover bypass system, which is very popular in North America. So those are the type of systems where we go after a plug and play of devices and equipment are all part of this. As we go from a pre-configured install, so we could also do loose controls. So what that means is I could go to a building and do a retrofit of that building, and that building we could do loose controls. So it doesn't have to be on the equipment coming out of the factory. So we could actually take the controllers and install them in the field on third-party piece of equipment. So it doesn't have to be York, it doesn't have to be Johnson Controls, it could be somebody else's equipment. As we go more further into the applications, the system could also tie into other types of products, and this is more of a future outlook of what we're doing. And we're looking at lighting systems, we're looking at metering, you're looking at boilers and chillers. This product is a global product. We're releasing the first product in North America. The second release will be a global product. We're pushing into Europe. And when you look at Europe, the application around small buildings is a little bit different than North America. So you really don't have VAVs, you don't have changeover bypass, but what you'll have is small chillers with boilers, and then you have fan coils that you have to go out there, maybe some chill beams, and go out there and do the system. Again, very small buildings, and this becomes a plug and play type of system. So let's look at the components. The centerpiece, the nucleus, I guess, of the system is what we call Smart Building Hub. The vision around Smart Building Hub is we're trying to create an ecosystem of IoT devices, and at some point, as we're building our foundation around the applications that we're building within Verasys, this hub becomes, the vision is, at least my vision is that when I go, let's say in one of our Johnston Supply distributors, and the hub sitting on the shelf, that hub will have a smart equipment logo on it with Verasys, and then there could be other products sitting on the shelf, kind of what you see at Home Depot or Lowe's, that you got Nest, and then now you got a smoke detector sitting next to it that could tie into it, or Amazon Echo. So if you think about that, we want to have other people connect to us by providing that IoT capability. In the first release, we're building the foundation around equipment. So we have our smart equipment controls that are already been released over the past 3 years. It is Verasys capable, it connects to our hub. We also have what's called a TEC. This TEC terminal equipment controller is built around some Verasys capabilities, and this particular device can be tied into third-party pieces of equipment. So you could do single zone rooftops, you could do fan coils, you could do heat pumps. And that particular controller ties in right into our hub, and without any kind of programming, you configure it, and then it comes in again as a plug and play. We have what's called the Verasys equipment controller. So this particular device, it again is built around smart equipment controls, and it does the zoning application for us. So what the VEC does for us is we could take that device and it could do our VAV control logic. It's pre-programmed in the controller. It does our changeover bypass logic, is in the controller itself. So we take this controller as a loose controller, and we'll bring in, let's say, an existing system that has a train zoning system. Matter of fact, we have 2 or 3 jobs already online. We've been using this particular controller, and then we bring in a zoning system. So again, this is something that we use today to go after a third party. As far as that's for the rooftop. As for the zone controller itself, this is also has logic built into it that we could do the zoning system. So these two work together. You got your rooftop logic, and then you have your zoning logic. So again, it would be for your changeover bypass, and then it would be for your VAV system. We also have other components. I'm going to go ahead and bring all 3 up. These 3 controllers here, again, they're pre-configured. They have multiple different applications running inside of them for your VAV system and for your bypass system. VAV, you could go up to 3 stages of heating with the Verasys zone controller here. I mean, this is a typical zone damper. We also do supplemental heat off of that. And then you have your bypass damper for your bypass control for your baling pressure. And last, we have what's called the IOM. And this is a nice feature I have. Again, if you remember that at the beginning of the slide, we talked about interlocks, simple interlocks. If I want to control some lighting, if I want to control an exhaust fan, if I want to do a reset of a boiler, I could use this IOM and build a simple logic inside this controller, and then be able to control those ancillary devices. So Verasys components, this is it. This is all we have. Now again, we're building foundation around our equipment to make sure they're smart. Our embedded logics are inside here. As a bundle solution, this is the best offering, but we could also do loose controls around the creation of the Verasys system architecture. That's the end of my presentation. It looks like I have a lot of minutes left, so we have a booth 3424. We do live demos. If you're interested to see live demos, we have multiple sites remotely connected to the system here, right behind this wall. And we actually remotely connecting to jobs in Louisville, Kentucky. We're connecting jobs in Kansas City, and we are showing live system, and we'll be able to show you really the feature sets that I've been talking about here around plug and play, around remote connectivity, email and texting. You can see the applications. You can see how the system actually works live.